The world as Daniel Carter knew it had turned to hell. He crouched behind a burnt-out taxi, gripping his blood-stained machete, his breath slow and controlled. The streets of Manhattan were unrecognizable, buildings shattered, fires still smoldering, and the air thick with the putrid stench of rotting flesh. The undead staggered through the ruins, their grotesque forms illuminated by the dying embers of a collapsed gas station. Behind him, his ragtag group huddled together, their faces pale beneath layers of grime. "We need to move," Daniel murmured, eyes scanning the swarm of zombies blocking their escape route. "We're trapped," whispered Leah, a young doctor clutching a pistol in trembling hands. "They're everywhere." Daniel turned to Nathan, a former firefighter with a shotgun slung over his shoulder. "How much ammo do we have?" Nathan checked his pockets. 2 full magazines. "Maybe enough to punch through, but if we attract more, we die," finished Alex, a wiry teenager who had learned to wield a crowbar with deadly efficiency. Daniel tightened his grip on his machete. He had heard rumors of a final safe zone in upstate New York, a heavily fortified compound where the military still held the line. Whether it was real or just another lie in a dying world, they had no choice but to believe in it. "We make for that building." He pointed toward a shattered high-rise, its glass windows reflecting the fires below. "We move fast and quiet. No guns unless absolutely necessary." Leah swallowed hard. "And if they see us?" Daniel didn't answer. They all knew what happened if the Horde spotted fresh prey. With a nod, they sprinted across the street. Daniel led the way, his boots crunching over shattered glass. The stench of decay was overwhelming. A corpse lay sprawled against a broken car, its torso torn open, ribcage exposed. A swarm of flies buzzed around it. They reached the high-rise entrance, slipping inside through a broken doorway. The lobby was dark, the air heavy with mildew. Desks had been overturned, and blood splattered the marble floors. A low growl echoed from the stairwell. Nathan raised his shotgun, but Daniel held up a hand. He crept forward, peering around the corner. A lone zombie stood at the base of the stairs, its head twitching erratically. It wore the shredded remains of a business suit, its jaw unhinged, dripping blackened drool. Daniel moved fast. His machete sliced clean through its skull. The body collapsed with a sickening thud. "Up the stairs," he whispered. They climbed, their breaths shallow, their ears tuned for any sound of movement. The building was eerily silent. No moans, no shuffling feet, just the distant crackle of fire from the ruined city. On the 10th floor, they found what they were looking for, a vantage point. From here, they could see the street below, the direction they needed to go. Daniel scanned the horizon. The undead were concentrated near Times Square, their numbers staggering. They had maybe an hour before the Horde shifted in their direction. Nathan sat against the wall, running a hand through his sweat-matted hair. "We can't keep running like this, man. We need a plan." "The plan is simple," Daniel said. "We reach the safe zone. If it even exists," Leah muttered. Daniel met her gaze. "If it doesn't, we make our own." A distant explosion rocked the building. Alex peered out the window. Holy crap. Down below, a group of survivors sprinted through the streets, pursued by at least 50 zombies. One of them tripped, screaming as the Horde descended upon him. "We should help them," Leah said, voice thick with guilt. Daniel clenched his fists. Every instinct told him to intervene, but they couldn't afford it. They were barely surviving as it was. "No," he said, forcing himself to turn away. "We can't save everyone." The screams rose in pitch, then abruptly cut off. Nathan sighed. "We keep moving at dawn?" Daniel nodded. "We head north." Alex turned from the window. "Then let's pray morning comes fast." But as they settled in for the night, none of them could shake the truth they all feared. Morning didn't guarantee survival. It only meant they had one more day to fight. The high-rise was supposed to be a temporary refuge, but as the night stretched on, Daniel felt an unease settle in his gut. Something was off. The building was too quiet. Even in this dead city, there were always distant groans, the shuffling of feet, or the sound of something breaking in the wind. But here, nothing. Nathan sat by the window, shotgun resting on his lap, eyes fixed on the ruins below. "They're still moving," he murmured. "The Horde." But something spooked them. Daniel moved beside him, peering out into the streets. Nathan was right. The undead were shifting, no longer aimlessly wandering but moving with purpose, like something had caught their attention. Alex, who had been sitting against the far wall cleaning his crowbar, furrowed his brow. "That's not normal. You think more survivors are out there?" Leah sat on the floor, staring at the blood-stained carpet, lost in thought. "Or something else," she whispered. Daniel frowned. "We need rest. We leave at first light." "Then let's take turns keeping watch," Nathan said. "I'll go first." Daniel nodded. "I'll take over in a few hours." They huddled in the darkness, exhaustion pulling them into uneasy sleep. An ominous discovery. Daniel awoke to a sound, a faint shuffle, just beyond the door. His hand instinctively found his machete as he slowly pushed himself up. Nathan was slumped against the wall, shotgun still in his grip, fast asleep. Something wasn't right. He rose to his feet, creeping toward the door. The hallway beyond was pitch black, the air thick with mildew and the metallic scent of dried blood. Then he saw it. A trail of fresh footprints in the dust, ones that didn't belong to them. His heart pounded as he followed the trail deeper into the hall. It led to a half-open door, the brass handle smeared with something dark. A whisper drifted from inside. Daniel raised his machete and nudged the door open. Leah stood inside, hunched over something on the floor. The dim moonlight filtering through the broken window revealed the corpse of a man, one who hadn't been there when they first arrived. His throat had been slit clean, his eyes wide open in shock. Daniel stiffened. "What the hell is this?" Leah whipped around, her face pale, eyes wild. I didn't." "What happened?" Daniel demanded, stepping closer. I heard something," she stammered. "I came out here and found him. He was already dead." Daniel examined the body. The man was in his late 30s, dressed in scavenged clothes. His backpack was torn open, supplies scattered on the floor. This wasn't a random kill. Someone had looted him. Nathan appeared behind him, shotgun raised. "Damn it, Daniel, what's going on?" "We're not alone," Daniel muttered. A creak echoed from further down the hall. Daniel spun, heart hammering. The sound of footsteps, multiple sets. And then a voice. "You shouldn't have stayed here. Ambush in the dark." The words were barely out before the first gunshot rang through the building. "Down!" Daniel roared, shoving Leah aside as a bullet smashed into the doorframe. Nathan fired back, the shotgun's blast reverberating down the hallway. Alex scrambled to his feet, gripping his crowbar. "Who the hell are they?" More shots followed, forcing them to retreat into the room. "We need to get out, now." Daniel barked. Nathan ducked as another bullet whizzed past. "Yeah? And how do you suggest we do that, genius?" Daniel's mind raced. The attackers weren't zombies. They were people. Which meant they had intelligence, but also greed. They're looters, he realized. They were using this place as a trap. Leah's voice shook. "So they let us think it was safe. And now they're picking us off," Alex finished grimly. A voice called from the hallway, gruff and laced with amusement. Come out, drop your weapons, and we'll let you live. Daniel knew that was a lie. Like hell we will, Nathan muttered. Daniel's eyes darted to the window. 10 floors up. Too high to jump, but maybe. Another shot blasted through the wall. We take the fire escape, Daniel decided. Nathan scowled. And if they cut us off? Then we fight. A desperate escape. Moving fast, they sprinted through the room, bursting onto the rusted fire escape. Below, the streets swarmed with the undead, their moans growing louder at the sound of gunfire. We climb down, Daniel ordered. Stay quiet. The metal groaned beneath their weight as they descended. Halfway down, the door to the high-rise burst open. A figure appeared, one of the looters, rifle in hand. He spotted them instantly. Got you now, you. His words were cut short as Alex swung his crowbar, cracking the man's skull. The body tumbled off the platform, slamming into the pavement below. The noise was enough. The horde turned, eyes locking onto them. Nathan swore. They heard that. Daniel grit his teeth. We keep moving. They reached the last platform, dropping onto a wrecked car. The undead lurched toward them, clawed hands reaching. Daniel swung his machete, cleaving through a skull. Nathan fired his shotgun. Leah stabbed a knife into an undead's eye. They fought their way into a side alley, panting. For now, they were safe. But the looters weren't done hunting them. And Daniel knew, this was only the beginning. The city was a graveyard, a silent, decaying tomb of shattered buildings and blood-stained streets. The only movement came from the dead, grotesque figures shuffling aimlessly, their rotting flesh barely clinging to their bones. Daniel, Leah, Nathan, and Alex crouched in the shadows of an overturned truck, catching their breath. The looters were still out there. Somewhere. Watching. Hunting. Nathan wiped the sweat from his brow. That was too close. No kidding, Alex muttered, gripping his crowbar. We should have stayed and fought. Daniel shot him a look. You want to take on a gang of armed killers while a horde of zombies is breathing down your neck? Alex hesitated. Well, no. Then keep quiet and keep moving. Leah adjusted her backpack, her voice hushed. We need to get out of the city before they track us down again. Daniel nodded. He pulled out a crumpled map, tracing a route with his finger. We head north. Fast. There's an old tunnel system beneath the city. If it's still intact, we can use it to bypass the main streets. Nathan grimaced. Tunnels? Underground? Leah shivered. Sounds like a death trap. It's better than getting gunned down in the open, Daniel said. Or torn apart. No one argued. The decision was made. They were going into the dark. Into the underground. The entrance to the tunnel was hidden beneath a collapsed parking garage. A rusted maintenance door, half buried under debris, stood as their way in. Daniel tested the handle. Locked. Nathan smirked. I got this. He stepped forward and slammed his boot against the door. The rusted metal groaned, then snapped open. The stench hit them immediately. A thick, foul odor of rot and mildew. The air was damp, heavy, and filled with an eerie silence. Daniel flicked on his flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. Stay close. They stepped inside. The tunnel stretched endlessly, pipes lining the ceiling, puddles of stagnant water reflecting their dim light. Their footsteps echoed, swallowed by the void ahead. Alex whispered, anyone else getting bad vibes? Nathan exhaled. Oh yeah. They pressed forward, weaving past debris in collapsed sections. Every shadow looked like it could hide something waiting to pounce. Then, the moaning started. Low. Guttural. Nearby. Daniel raised his hand. Everyone froze. The flashlight beam swept across the tunnel, then landed on them. Dozens of zombies. Hunched in the darkness, pressed against the tunnel walls like dormant insects. Their eyes snapped open at the light, their bodies jerking to life. And then they charged. Tunnel of terror. Run! Daniel bellowed. They bolted down the passage, boots splashing through water, the sound of groaning and gnashing teeth filling the air. Leah screamed as a hand reached from the darkness, clawing at her backpack. She spun, slamming her knife into the zombie's throat. Alex swung his crowbar, smashing another in the face. Nathan fired his shotgun. Boom! The tunnel walls shook. A zombie's head exploded, but the blast rang in their ears. Daniel saw the end of the tunnel, a rusted ladder leading up. Their exit. Go, 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 he shouted. Alex scrambled up first, then Leah. Nathan fired one last shot before climbing. Daniel turned, machete ready. The undead swarmed toward him, eyes filled with hunger. No time. He leapt for the ladder, hands gripping the cold metal. A zombie lunged, its fingers scraped his boot as he hauled himself up. Nathan yanked him the rest of the way, and they crashed onto the surface, gasping. The city stretched before them, bathed in the orange glow of a dying sun. They had escaped the tunnels. But their nightmare wasn't over. The crossroads. The road north was blocked. A massive horde, hundreds of zombies, roamed the streets ahead, drawn by the echoes of their gunfire. Leah's face fell. We can't go that way. Daniel's mind raced. There had to be another way. Then, from the distance, a flicker of light. A campfire. Survivors. Or worse. Nathan saw it too. Might be more looters. Or it might be our only shot, Daniel said. Alex exhaled. So, what do we do? Daniel's gaze hardened. They had come too far to turn back. We find out. The fire flickered in the distance, a lonely beacon against the ruined skyline. Smoke curled lazily into the air, a sign of life, or a trap waiting to be sprung. Daniel knelt behind an abandoned car, his eyes locked on the camp. We approach slow, he whispered. Weapons ready. Nathan grunted. And if they shoot first? We shoot back. Leah exhaled, her fingers tightening around her pistol. I hate this. Yeah, Alex muttered. But staying out here is worse. They moved carefully, weaving through wreckage and rusted vehicles, the stench of death hanging in the air. As they neared the fire, voices became clear, two men, arguing. Daniel signaled for silence, crouching behind an overturned truck. He peered through a gap in the metal. Two figures stood near the flames. One was lean, twitchy, gripping a rifle with white-knuckled fingers. The other was built like a tank, a thick beard hiding most of his scarred face. He held a revolver and paced angrily. We should have left hours ago, the bearded man snapped. We stay any longer, they'll find us. Relax, the twitchy one replied. No one's coming. Nathan leaned toward Daniel. Think they're talking about us? Daniel didn't answer. His gut told him something was off. Then, a third voice came. Weak. Strained. Please, don't leave me. Daniel tensed. There was a third person, someone injured, lying near the fire. A woman, barely conscious, her arms bound behind her back. Blood seeped from a wound on her leg. Leah's eyes widened. We can't leave her. Daniel agreed. But rushing in could get them all killed. Then, fate made the choice for them. The wind shifted. And with it, came the unmistakable, rancid scent of the undead. The horde arrives. A moan echoed through the night. Then another. And another. The two men by the fire snapped to attention, weapons raised. "Oh, hell," the bearded man muttered. From the shadows, the first zombie appeared, a woman in a tattered hospital gown, her jaw hanging by a strip of flesh. She staggered forward, dead eyes locked on the living. More followed. Dozens. The Horde had caught their scent. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Now's our chance." Nathan and Alex rushed forward as gunfire erupted. The twitchy man spun, eyes wide. "What the?" Nathan's shotgun roared, and the looter dropped like a stone. The bearded man turned, too late. Daniel's machete flashed, cutting him down. Leah ran to the wounded woman, cutting her bindings. "We've got you." The woman gasped in pain but managed a weak nod. "We have to go." Alex pointed toward an abandoned diner across the street. "There. We can barricade inside." No time to argue. The Horde was almost on them. They ran. A fight for survival. The diner's glass door shattered as they burst inside. Tables and chairs lay in disarray, old meals rotted on the counters. Daniel and Nathan shoved a booth against the entrance, blocking the doorway. The first zombie slammed against the glass, fingers clawing. Then another. And another. Leah knelt beside the woman. "What's your name?" "Harper," she gasped. "Those men, they were supposed to help me. But she winced. They were gonna leave me." Alex grabbed bandages from his pack. "You're safe now." A window shattered. Nathan cursed. "They're getting in." Daniel looked around. The kitchen door led to the alley, but if they ran, they'd be out in the open again. Not an option. "We hold them off," Daniel ordered. The undead poured inside. Nathan fired, blasting a zombie's head apart. Alex swung his crowbar, caving in another's skull. Daniel moved like a predator, machete slicing through rotted flesh. Leah fought beside Harper, stabbing at anything that got too close. But there were too many. "We're getting overwhelmed," Leah shouted. Nathan emptied his shotgun. "Then we better think of something fast." A shocking revelation. Harper clutched Daniel's arm, her voice urgent. "There's something you need to know." Daniel kept fighting. "Now's not the time." "It is," she rasped. "The safe zone," she coughed. "It's real. But it's not what you think." Daniel froze. A zombie lunged. He barely dodged, driving his machete into its skull. "What do you mean?" Harper's breathing was labored. "They're experimenting on survivors." Daniel's blood ran cold. Nathan fired again, click. Empty. "Damn it." He swung his gun like a club, smashing a zombie's face. Leah grabbed Daniel. "We need to get out of here. Now." Harper struggled to stand. The looters, they knew. Daniel clenched his jaw. They had risked everything to find the safe zone. But what if reaching it meant something far worse than death? The escape. "We go through the alley," Daniel said. "Stay close." They pushed through the kitchen, shoving through the back door. The night air hit them like a slap. More undead stumbled in the distance, drawn by the noise. Daniel looked at Harper. "Can you run?" She nodded weakly. "I'll try." Nathan reloaded. "Where to now?" Daniel's grip tightened on his machete. The safe zone was north. But if Harper was telling the truth, was it truly a sanctuary? Or a trap far worse than the undead? One thing was certain, there was no turning back. The night was thick with the stench of rot and smoke. Daniel led the group through the alleys, their breath heavy, their bodies aching from the endless fight. The city behind them was a tomb, filled with the groans of the undead and the screams of those too slow to escape. Harper stumbled, nearly collapsing. Leah caught her, keeping her steady. "We need to find shelter," Leah whispered. "No," Harper gasped. We keep going." Daniel glanced at her. She was pale, her wound bleeding through the hastily wrapped bandages. "You're barely standing." Harper shook her head. "You don't understand. If the looters knew about the safe zone, they weren't just scavengers." She looked up, her eyes filled with something worse than pain. They were trying to run from it. Silence fell over the group. Nathan sighed, adjusting his shotgun strap. "Fantastic. So we've been fighting to reach a place even criminals don't want to stay in." Alex frowned. "If it's that bad, why would anyone stay?" Harper's lips trembled. "Because they don't have a choice." Daniel's grip tightened on his machete. The safe zone was supposed to be their salvation. But what if it was something else entirely? The journey north. With no time to rest, they pushed forward, weaving through the outskirts of the city. The farther they went, the fewer the buildings. Eventually, only trees and broken roads surrounded them. A sign stood crooked by the roadside, rusted but still readable. "Fort Haven, 1 mile." Nathan exhaled. "Almost there." Leah adjusted Harper's weight on her shoulder. "And what exactly are we walking into?" Harper swallowed hard. Fort Haven was a military base. When the outbreak started, it became a quarantine zone. But the government, they didn't just try to contain the virus. She hesitated. They tried to control it. Daniel stopped walking. "Control it?" Harper nodded. "They started, testing on people. Experimenting. Trying to find a cure, or something worse." Alex ran a hand through his hair. "Oh, that's just great." Leah's face darkened. "And you were there?" Harper looked away. "I barely escaped." Nathan kicked at the ground. "So we've been hiking toward a damn death camp." "We don't know that for sure," Daniel said. "We check it out first. If it's bad, we turn around." Nathan laughed bitterly. "And go where, exactly?" Daniel didn't have an answer. The walls of Fort Haven. They reached the outer perimeter an hour later. The walls of Fort Haven loomed over them, massive concrete barriers lined with razor wire, towers standing like silent sentinels. Floodlights flickered, casting eerie beams into the trees. But something was wrong. There were no guards. No sounds of people. Just silence. Nathan tensed. "I don't like this." Harper took a shaky breath. "They're watching us." Daniel's stomach clenched. "Who?" Before she could answer, a voice rang out from the loudspeakers, crackling through the night. "Step forward. Hands where we can see them." A spotlight flared to life, blinding them. Daniel shielded his eyes. "We're survivors. We need help." Silence. Then, the gates groaned open. A group of soldiers emerged, clad in tattered uniforms, rifles raised. Their leader, a tall man with hollow eyes and a cold stare, stepped forward. His name tag read, Colonel Briggs. "You came to the wrong place," he said flatly. "Inside the safe zone." The soldiers escorted them inside. Fort Haven was eerie. Tents and makeshift barracks lined the inner compound, but there were no civilians. No families. Just soldiers and people in ragged hospital gowns, staring blankly. A few bodies lay covered by tarps. The air smelled of antiseptic and death. Nathan muttered, "Yeah. I don't think this is the paradise we were hoping for." Briggs led them to a holding area, turning to face them. "You want shelter? You'll follow the rules." Daniel stepped forward. "We just need food and rest." One night, and we'll be gone. Briggs smirked. No one leaves Fort Haven. A chill ran down Daniel's spine. Leah clutched Harper's arm. We should leave. Briggs sighed. You don't get it. The world's already dead. Fort Haven is the only future. Harper's breathing quickened. You're still running the experiments, aren't you? Briggs' face hardened. Some sacrifices have to be made. Nathan reached for his gun, but a soldier jabbed him in the ribs with a rifle. Daniel clenched his fists. You can't keep us here. Briggs stepped closer, his voice a whisper. You think the dead are the real threat? You have no idea what's coming. Suddenly, a scream echoed from deep inside the base. Then another. And another. Something was wrong. An alarm blared. Soldiers rushed toward the main gates. Briggs' face went pale. No, not now. Daniel stepped back. What the hell is happening? Briggs didn't answer. Then they heard it, something worse than the moans of the undead. A deep, guttural howl. Not a zombie. Something else. Something worse. The floodlights flickered. The air grew heavy with dread. And then, the screaming stopped. Only silence remained. Briggs whispered, almost to himself. It's already inside. The silence after the alarm was worse than the screaming. Daniel's heart pounded as the floodlights flickered, casting long, eerie shadows against the walls of Fort Haven. The air was thick with tension, every breath laced with something wrong. Then, a guttural snarl echoed through the compound. It wasn't a zombie's moan. It was deeper. Hungrier. Briggs cursed under his breath and turned to his men. All units, defensive positions. Whatever got in, kill it. The soldiers snapped into motion, weapons raised, eyes scanning the darkness. But the fear in their faces told Daniel everything, they didn't know what they were fighting. A blood-curdling shriek tore through the air. Then, chaos erupted. The monster in the dark. A soldier near the outer tents screamed as something yanked him off his feet, his body disappeared into the shadows. Gunfire erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness, revealing glimpses of something. It moved too fast to see. A blur of flesh, sinew, and something not human. The soldiers kept firing, their bullets sparking off the walls. Then came the first real look. A massive figure lunged into the light. It was wrong. Once human, maybe. But now, its flesh was twisted, veins black and pulsing beneath skin stretched too tight. Its eyes glowed an unnatural yellow, its mouth distended with rows of jagged, needle-like teeth. A failed experiment. The creature ripped through a soldier's torso with a single swipe, sending blood spraying across the concrete. Nathan stepped back, gripping his shotgun. What the hell is that? Briggs didn't answer. He was frozen in place, watching his men get slaughtered. Alex grabbed Daniel. We need to move. Daniel snapped back to reality. He grabbed Leah's arm, pulling her toward the nearest building. Go. Now. The group sprinted, ducking behind sandbag barriers as the creature tore through the remaining soldiers. Harper, still weak, stumbled but forced herself forward. I told you, experiments. Nathan fired his shotgun at the monster. The blast hit its shoulder, but the thing barely flinched. It turned toward them. And charged. The desperate escape. Run! Daniel roared. They bolted through the compound, leaping over fallen bodies, past overturned supply crates. The ground was slick with blood. Soldiers ran, some screaming, others firing blindly. The monster moved through them like a storm, claws slashing, teeth tearing. Daniel saw an open barracks door and pointed. Inside. They sprinted for the building, feet pounding against the pavement. The moment they crossed the threshold, Alex slammed the door shut. Nathan and Daniel shoved a metal cabinet in front of it. Silence. They were breathing hard, hearts racing. Outside, the screaming continued. Leah turned to Harper. "How do we stop that thing?" Harper shook her head, her face pale. "You don't." The lights inside the barracks flickered. A single emergency bulb buzzed overhead, casting a dim glow. Daniel gritted his teeth. "There has to be a way." Alex peered out the window, his face grim. "Briggs is still alive. He's running toward the command center." Nathan scoffed. "Yeah? Let's see how long that lasts." Then, a loud crash from the other side of the compound. The creature was still hunting. Briggs' voice crackled over the loudspeakers. "All remaining personnel, report to the underground bunker. We are initiating lockdown. This is not a drill." Harper's eyes widened. "The bunker." Daniel turned to her. "What's down there?" Harper swallowed hard. "The real reason people don't leave Fort Haven. The truth below." They had two options. Stay and be torn apart. Or follow Briggs, to whatever hell was waiting underground. Daniel made the call. "We go after him." Nathan shook his head. "Are you serious? We need answers." Daniel reloaded his pistol. "And we need a way out." Leah hesitated, then nodded. "Fine. But if things get worse, we run." They slipped out of the barracks, keeping low. Bodies littered the ground, civilians, soldiers, all torn apart. The creature was nowhere to be seen. But it was close. They made it to the command center. The door was ajar, smeared with blood. Inside, Briggs was at a control panel, typing furiously. The monitors around him showed security footage of the base, dead zones, broken gates, and something moving below ground. Daniel stepped forward. "What's in the bunker?" Briggs barely looked at him. "You don't want to know." Nathan raised his shotgun. "Try me." Briggs exhaled. "It wasn't just one experiment. The thing you saw? It was just the beginning." Harper grabbed Daniel's arm. "We can't go down there." Briggs turned, his eyes dark. "If we don't, then it comes up here." An explosion rocked the compound. The monster outside howled, a sound so unnatural it made their skin crawl. Briggs slammed a button on the console. The bunker doors hissed open. A dark stairwell yawned beneath them. Briggs grabbed a rifle. "You want to survive? Then follow me." Nathan muttered, "Oh, this is a terrible idea." Daniel looked at the others. Harper was trembling. Leah gripped her knife tightly. Alex exhaled. "Screw it. We've come this far." Daniel nodded. Then, as one, they stepped into the darkness below. The cold air of the bunker pressed in around them as the heavy steel doors sealed shut behind them. The dim emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows along the narrow corridor. The scent of mildew, blood, and something rotting filled the space. Briggs led the way, gripping his rifle, his jaw set tight. Daniel kept close behind him, his machete ready. The others followed in tense silence, their footsteps echoing down the hall. Nathan scowled. "So, Briggs, now's a great time to tell us exactly what the hell is down here." Briggs didn't stop walking. The reason Fort Haven was never meant to be a safe zone. Harper, her voice barely above a whisper, filled in the rest. They weren't just experimenting on the infected. They were making something worse. Leah tensed. "You mean that thing upstairs?" Briggs shook his head. "No. That was just one of them." Silence. Daniel tightened his grip on his weapon. How many? Briggs exhaled. Too many. The Lab of Horrors. The hallway opened into a vast underground facility. Rows of shattered glass containment pods lined the walls, their contents long gone. Fluorescent lights buzzed weakly overhead, barely illuminating the massive space. Dried blood smeared the floors and walls. Torn lab coats lay discarded near desks covered in old reports and broken computers. Alex picked up a document, scanning the pages. His face paled. They weren't just trying to cure the virus. They were enhancing it. Nathan huffed. Oh, of course they were. Because regular zombies weren't already bad enough. Harper pointed to a terminal, her hands shaking. They called them Phase 2 subjects. Leah's gaze darted around the room. And where are the subjects now? Briggs grimaced. Gone. As if on cue, a distant clanging echoed through the halls. Something was moving. Something big. The prison below. Briggs moved to a secured panel and swiped a blood-stained keycard. A heavy metal door groaned open, revealing a staircase leading even deeper underground. Nathan muttered, "Oh, great. Because going further into hell always works out." Briggs ignored him. "If we're going to stop this, we need to get to the control room. It's the only place where we can activate the failsafe." Daniel frowned. Failsafe? Briggs' voice was grim. Complete incineration of the bunker. Harper's eyes widened. "You want to blow up the entire facility?" Briggs turned to her. "Unless you want whatever's down here escaping to the surface, it's the only way." Another metallic bang echoed, closer this time. Daniel clenched his teeth. "Move. Now." They hurried down the stairs. The lower level was even worse. Cells lined the corridor, their reinforced glass shattered. The stench of death was overwhelming. Inside the cells, twisted remains of failed experiments lay rotting, some human, some not. One still twitched. Alex recoiled. Jesus Christ. Leah stepped forward, peering into a darkened cell. Then, a pair of glowing yellow eyes snapped open in the darkness. A bloodied, clawed hand slammed against the glass. The creature lurched forward, its body barely human, veins black, skin stretched tight over elongated bones. It opened its mouth, its jaw unhinged, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Then, it screamed. The awakening. An alarm blared. The remaining containment doors unlocked with a mechanical hiss. Briggs' face drained of color. "No. No, no, no." The bunker shook as something massive slammed into the walls. The creatures inside the cells rushed out. Daniel raised his machete. "Run." The hallway erupted into chaos. One of the creatures lunged at Harper. Leah yanked her out of the way just in time. Nathan fired his shotgun, blasting a hole through another's chest, but it kept coming. Briggs shouted over the noise, "We have to get to the control room. We don't have time for this." Daniel grabbed Leah and Harper, pulling them forward. "Move." They sprinted down the hallway, the creatures howling behind them. Briggs led them through a security door, slamming it shut just as the first monster reached them. It pounded against the steel, its guttural snarls reverberating through the walls. For now, they were safe. But not for long. The fail-safe key. The control room was in ruins, monitors flickered, showing security feeds of the bunker. The creatures swarmed the lower levels, moving like a pack of hunting animals. Briggs shoved a chair aside, frantically typing into a console. "I can still activate the incineration protocol, but I need the override key." Daniel glanced around. "Where is it?" Briggs' face darkened. "The director's office." Harper froze. "You mean the psychopath who started all of this?" Briggs nodded. And if he's still down here? Nathan sighed. Then he's probably not himself anymore. Alex checked his ammo. So we go in, grab the key, and get the hell out? Briggs exhaled. That's the plan. Another boom echoed through the facility. The creatures were still coming. Daniel set his jaw. Then let's finish this. The cold, sterile air of the control room was thick with tension. The alarm's shrill wail echoed through the underground facility, mixing with the distant snarls of the creatures hunting them. The security feeds flickered, showing glimpses of the horrors swarming the lower levels. Briggs wiped sweat from his brow. We don't have much time. If we don't activate the incineration protocol, everything in this bunker gets out. Daniel tightened his grip on his machete. Then we get that override key. Nathan sighed, checking his shotgun. Yeah, because breaking into a dead man's office to stop mutant zombies is a great way to spend the end of the world. Leah smirked. Better than getting eaten. Nathan frowned. Debatable. Another bang rattled the steel door behind them. The creatures were getting closer. Briggs pointed to a hallway on the monitors. The director's office is at the end of that corridor. If he still has the key, we grab it and activate the failsafe from here. Harper exhaled. And if he doesn't? Briggs didn't answer. Because they all knew what that meant. The office of the dead. The group moved quickly, keeping their weapons ready. The bunker groaned around them, like it was barely holding together. The hallway leading to the director's office was a graveyard. Corpses, some human, some twisted into grotesque mutations, littered the floor. Blood streaked the walls, handprints smeared like desperate warnings. Leah covered her nose. God, it stinks. Nathan nudged a body with his boot. At least these ones are staying dead. Then. A click. The overhead lights flickered. A low gurgling moan echoed from further down the corridor. Daniel raised his machete. We're not alone. They moved cautiously, stepping over bodies. At the far end of the hallway, the director's office door stood ajar. Briggs exhaled. Stay sharp. They pushed inside. And froze. The director's fate. The room was a disaster. Papers scattered across the floor, monitors cracked, furniture overturned. And in the center of the room, a corpse sat slumped in a chair. Or, at least, what was left of it. Its head lolled to one side, the skin stretched thin and discolored, veins bulging black beneath the surface. Clawed fingers twitched slightly, as if caught between death and something worse. Harper gagged. Is that him? Briggs approached cautiously, rifle raised. It was. Daniel spotted something in the corpse's clenched fist, a small keycard smeared with dried blood. The override key. Daniel reached out. The corpse's hand shot up, grabbing his wrist. Daniel jerked back, knocking over a chair as the director's corpse spasmed violently. Its head snapped up, eyes glowing a sickly yellow. Then. It screeched. The last fight. The creature lunged. Daniel barely dodged as the mutated director slammed into the desk, knocking over a monitor. Its jaw unhinged, revealing rows of needle-like teeth, black bile dripping from its mouth. Nathan fired, boom. The shotgun blast tore through its chest, but the thing kept moving. Briggs grabbed the keycard from the twitching fingers. We got what we need. Let's go. The creature lashed out, claws slicing through the air. Daniel ducked, then swung his machete. The blade sank deep into its neck, but it only snarled, pushing forward. Alex emptied a pistol into its head, 3 shots, 4, 5, until the thing finally collapsed in a heap. Harper trembled. Tell me that thing is dead this time. Daniel pulled his machete free. Let's not stick around to find out. Briggs held up the keycard. We finish this. Now. The race to the control room. They ran. The bunker shook as explosions from above rattled the walls. The creatures in the lower levels had broken free, their screeches echoing through the corridors. They reached the control room just as the security door gave way. A horde of twisted mutations poured through, eyes glowing, claws ready. Briggs slammed the keycard into the terminal. Activating failsafe. The system beeped. Override accepted. A robotic voice blared through the facility. Incineration sequence activated. Evacuate immediately. Flames erupted from vents along the hallways as the automated purge began. Nathan fired at an oncoming creature, backing toward the exit. That's our cue to leave. Daniel grabbed Leah's hand, pulling her toward the stairwell. Move. The final escape. They raced up the stairs, the facility collapsing behind them. The fire spread fast, consuming everything in its path. Briggs, leading the way, reached the bunker door and slammed the emergency release. The massive steel doors groaned open. Fresh air hit them like a wave. They burst outside, into the ruins of Fort Haven. The compound was in flames, the night sky glowing orange from the destruction. Then, a horrific, deafening screech rose from the depths of the bunker. They turned. The massive mutation from before was still alive. And it was coming for them. Briggs pulled a grenade from his belt, yanked the pin, and threw it back into the open bunker doors. He turned to Daniel. Run. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed Leah and Harper, sprinting for the perimeter. Nathan and Alex followed close behind. Briggs stood his ground as the monster lunged forward. The grenade exploded. Then, boom! The failsafe detonated. A shockwave of fire and debris erupted from the bunker, engulfing everything inside. The monstrous screech cut off instantly. The ground trembled. Then, silence. The end of Fort Haven. They stood at the edge of the burning base, catching their breath. Leah wiped soot from her face. Is it over? Daniel watched the flames, heart still pounding. Harper whispered, it has to be. Nathan huffed. Briggs actually did it. Daniel clenched his fists. Briggs hadn't made it out. The cost had been high. But the horrors of Fort Haven were finally gone. For now. Leah took Daniel's hand, squeezing it. Where do we go now? Daniel exhaled. The road ahead was uncertain. The world was still broken. But they were alive. And they weren't giving up yet. The last hope still remained. The end.